Welcome, everybody, to Why Are You an Entrepreneur? The Trials and Triumphs. I'm Maureen Edwards with 8 Simple Steps. And for those of you who don't know the drill and are tuning in for the first time, you know that I bring you rockstar entrepreneurs every single week to share their journey, not only to inspire you, but to also provide some best practices, words of wisdom, and to let you know that you are not alone out there. Entrepreneurship is hard, converting customers is hard. But when you have people like this, these are your peers. So tonight is no exception. I want to welcome Jude Sharp, who is the founder and head baker of the Unsweetened Tooth. And I love the backstory a little bit. She was a former Silicon Valley computer engineer turned no sugar added baker. So welcome, Judy.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
You are so welcome. And I have to say, you're probably one of my most favorite people. I've gotten to know you very well over the last couple years. I think it's probably going on. And I absolutely love what you do. So I always ask the same question. Why are you an entrepreneur? Why are you doing what you're doing and ventured into owning your own business? How did it come about?
Well, it came about out of a necessity to have something sweet, basically. As you may know, I was on the diet right at the point about 40 years ago. It actually was 40 years ago of becoming a very bad diabetic. It was in my family. It was inherited. And my mother, who had it, as well as my sister, had a tremendous amount of eye problems.
Hmm.
I was nearly blind or didn't see very well, had those Coke glasses. So I just knew I had to give up sugar because I didn't want to lose my eyesight. And if I didn't, I wouldn't see today, I'd be blind. So I gave up sugar and then started to find out how to bake since I've been baking since I'm 8 years old. And unfortunately, 40 years ago, there were very few alternate sugars available.
Hmm.
So over the years, we have developed this, and basically, to get it to people, we began this business, my husband and I.
Right. You know, it's the typical entrepreneurial story, though, because you saw a need based on your own experience. That's typically, I think, how things come about. You have a need, you can't find anything out there to help you, so you do it yourself. And then you took the risk to go ahead and set up a company to bring it to others. So tell me what's been the hardest part of starting your own business.
I think I have to think about that because there's so many things that are difficult.
It's
Uh,
true.
I think that finding your audience, defining your product, and pricing it are basically the most difficult things, especially with this type of good where I can't buy sugar for 15 cents a pound,
Right.
and
It's
I'm
an
paying
expensive.
$4 a pound.
Right, right. Well, when
So,
you think about it, though, when you define your audience, you're talking really about a specialty group of people who can't have sugar and crave sugar and want
mhm,
something like you did, and they can't find it. So that is not a narrow audience. I think it's much broader than we realize. You've got a lot of keto people, diabetic people, people who have healthier lifestyles. But at the end of the day, you've got to reach them,
right.
convince them, right?
Hmm.
And you've got to come up with that price point that's still doable
Right.
for those people.
And of course, things have changed in 40 years. I don't remember Facebook 40 years ago,
It wasn't there.
you know. So, changing everything and going through a different direction is not at all easy. And let's say it's really very frustrating.
You know, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It is difficult. So, how do you keep yourself passionate about continuing to do this when it is so hard and there are so many things to overcome?
I think remembering why you're doing this. This is the passion to help people,
Yeah.
to give people something they would not ordinarily have. And without that, it's just another baking operation and too many dishes.
So is that the fun part of entrepreneurship for you, is making that difference? Or what do you find to be the most fun about owning your own company?
Um, well, succeeding at developing a recipe is one thing,
Right, right.
you
And
know.
you're brilliant at that though. You are always like you're like a chemist. You're always testing stuff.
You have to. For this type of product, you have to test. And, I say to you and said it before that doing the same thing over and over again is what you call insanity. But without
Absolutely.
persistence, we would have stupidity. So I keep trying until I either have exhausted everything and spoken to the people that might be able to help me, such as a food scientist, or I change it.
Yeah. Great advice. I tell people this. In fact, I put that inspirational quote that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same results. So if you're thrilled with the results you're getting, then keep repeating it. But at the end of the day, if it's not working, it's time to make a change. And so you recognize that and you pivot and you work through it. Um,
Yes.
so tell me about social media. Uh, it's not something that's easy for a lot of people. And so I'm just curious about what social media success you have had, or is that something that you just have found to kind of be an outlier in marketing? You're like, oh, I got to do it.
No, social media now is absolutely necessary. And you
Yeah.
need to realize when you start a business, you cannot do it all. So you need a lawyer, you need an accountant, you need other people. And that's what you need to realize with social media. In my case, I need someone else.
Right.
There,
Right. Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
understanding that you can't do it all and you can't stay up more than 15 hours a day uh, is a difference. And it's a very hard thing to learn.
So, why do you think so many entrepreneurs do not reach out for help or recognize that there's a lot going on in owning a business? You know, if you're hiring out a professional lawyer, they have expertise in the law that you need. You've got an accountant out there. Obviously, maybe you don't know numbers very well. So, why do you think people don't reach out and are struggling with their social media or their website or just the general business operation stuff? Why do you think they don't do it?
Because they're either so embraced or have so much knowledge that they think they don't need it. And that's the problem because social media is not as mechanical and sets something up and automatically do something 20 times a day.
Right.
And I think that uh, depending on your past, and in my case, I started when there were water tubes in computers way
Oh
back
my gosh.
80 in the 80s. So there was no social media, there was no Windows, there was none of this. Everything was a command line and you typed it into a machine. So understanding all of this technology and everything that's happened, you have to choose what is most important in your business. Is it your product or is it let me do everything and then basically overwork myself?
Well, I what I hear from you is you stay in your lane. You're an expert chemist in the baking arena, and I know that's what you really love to do. Like that really is your passion. That if stay in your lane, what you're really good at, keep perfecting the product and then, funnel out the other stuff that can bring it to market.
And I think people have to realize they can do that. I think the younger generation, excuse me, because I'm not the younger generation, has more capabilities in today's social media and so forth. So it's maybe easier for them. But they're still going to need an accountant and they're still going to need a lawyer.
Yeah.
And they're going to need people with certain expertise, whether it's to incorporate, whether it's to get a trademark, whether it's to stand up in front of the IRS and say, no, you're wrong.
It's a lot of moving parts. It's so
You know,
true.
it's not as simple. There's everything is predicated on something else. And I think
Yeah.
you know that well.
I know it very well. I do. I do. So many moving parts. And people are say to me, "Well, you've built all these businesses. Why do you need to seek help?" Oh my goodness. Never think you're an expert at anything. Never think you can do it all. We should always be searching and reaching out to people who do know a lot of information, who do know more than us, because then you absorb it and then we can serve our people even better. And so I'd like to know, can you tell the audience who you serve? Who is your ideal person who you created this company for?
My ideal person, whether or not they're a diabetic or a cancer patient, is someone who realizes they need to make a um, change in what they eat and to lower their sugar content. And whether you're a diabetic or not, you can have this product and you won't know the difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you come with your standard product. Who is your customer? The customer that realizes they need to change. They need to change their diet. They need to take care of themselves.
This is so important because sometimes it takes getting sick, right? Or
Yes.
coming down with a health concern, with that. And I have tried your product and I have to tell you, I would never in a million years know that your cheesecake was not a New York cheesecake from a restaurant. Like I would never think this is no sugar added ever. In fact, my dad, who is an insulin diabetic, tried it. Italian guy, loves cheesecake, and he said this was the most amazing cheesecake he's ever had. So I have to say, trying the product, um, I would order this and I can eat anything I want, at least knock on wood right now, right? So
Right.
I can have sugar. And so I think that's what you've done really brilliantly. Like you've come up with something that a lot of people have not been able to kind of figure out because all those products kind of taste funny, they have an aftertaste to them. They just don't
They
they're
don't
not
work.
great.
And
No.
I think that people have to start taking a responsibility and read a label. I hate to say that, but
Yeah.
understanding what's on that label. Um, for instance, there's a chocolate company that decided that they were going to go keto and use coconut sugar, except coconut sugar is the same as having sugar. In fact, it's actually higher.
Oh.
So you have all these people with all this false advertising.
Yeah, it is very confusing. And so share with the audience because this was a lesson for me. I learned a lot between no sugar added and no sugar, like sugar free, like something sugar free and no sugar added. What is the difference?
Well, sugar free, according to the FDA, was interpreted as having no sugar, but also no calories. So nothing is really sugar free. In fruit and vegetables, there's inherent sugar.
Right.
So they decided to make a definition change and say that there's no added sugar. This allows them to use a fruit juice like in a curd, which has inherent sugar, and not add that white or brown sugar with molasses to
Yeah.
your product.
Interesting. So tell me, as an entrepreneur, you have had some challenges, and I'd like to know what has been you have a lot of moving parts. You've talked about the challenges with entrepreneurship, but for you in particular, is there something that you've overcome that you're super proud of?
I'm trying to
in your
think.
business? Yeah. What? I mean, you've overcome a lot, but is there something that you could help the audience with and say, I experienced this, but here's how I went about it?
Do you have an idea? Do you want to give me a hint of what you're thinking of?
Well, I think one of the things, knowing you, the biggest challenge for you has been, shipping. And because you have so many restrictions, but I think that one of the things you've done is make sure you research various, like do your due diligence, lots of various places that can reduce your shipping costs. You're always testing, do we go to a packer, right, or do we do it ourselves? And so you've had to pivot and make some decisions. And people think that overcoming something has to be huge, like this is the greatest thing I've ever done. Well, no, it's just the small things that can
Well, the small
sometimes make
things, the detail is what drives you crazy, basically.
It does. It does. But the details are so important, especially when it's going to impact pricing and
And,
and resources.
it depends on your product. So, where you have something that has dairy in it, the FDA steps in and says it has to be frozen. It has to ship in 2 days. Now, of course, the shippers themselves give themselves another 2 days.
Yeah.
So the big problem is that because there's no regulation, I would say, on the shippers, they get to charge whatever they want and they
Mm,
get to do whatever they want. And for a small company, that is very difficult because,
yeah.
first of all, you're limited on the days you can ship, and then you're hoping they're going to get there in 2 days, even though it takes 4 days. And you have to have it packaged for 4 days.
I have to tell you, you started one of the hardest businesses out there. Anytime you're producing manufacturing, companies, like my first company was a manufacturing company. It was the hardest thing because of the manufacturing facilities you have to set up. Like you have a full kitchen, just the sheer cost of it. And then you've got all these moving parts. And shipping is a big one that you're talking about. And you've got other people who are controlling it, and this is madness sometimes as an entrepreneur, and it is super frustrating to do
And,
that.
and there's no returns on shipments. If something you ship, because FedEx left it on the porch for 2 days and it happens to be a cheesecake, you have to throw it away. There's nothing. You have to replace it. And they don't give you the money back. Let's put it
Right. Right. So you've got to factor a lot of profit loss,
right.
loss into those prices. So that's a challenge, but what's been the greatest success so far as an entrepreneur?
I don't know if as an entrepreneur, but the ability to cook in a place and help the homeless has been one of my greatest things. And I'm always trying something new for them.
They're your test subjects, right?
Yes.
you
And
know,
so I don't know that it's a challenge other than to keep it absolutely pristine and meet all the rules and regulations. But the ability to help somebody when there shouldn't be any hunger in this country is something, because I come from that and I understand that. And it's, to me, that's why I do this, and it's what the business gives me.
yeah.
So I basically give up a certain amount of salary and so forth to do that. And I spend the time.
And I love hearing this because as entrepreneurs, you are giving back. You have the power to do that now. And I think we can use our business to serve not only our customers, but if we serve them well, it gives us the opportunity to serve others maybe that are less fortunate. And you're using your company to do that. I mean, and a lot of entrepreneurs, they haven't gotten to that ability to be able to do it. But they probably should be, focusing in on how do I give back once I'm there at that point.
Well, it's like we have the ovens and the cooking facilities to be able to do that.
Right, right. But think about it, that does eat into your profits because those are that I mean you not only your time, right, but also
Right.
the materials, right?
Yes.
The cost of the goods to produce it and to bring it down. So you are dedicating your company to something bigger than yourself. And as entrepreneurs, that's something that we should look at. And I think that's very admirable part of your brand too. And as I sit here and think about it, I'm thinking that maybe that should be part of the messaging, a giving back type of company to those who have really little to no resources.
And you know what's interesting? The group that I work with, they collect old clothing, they get toiletries, they find toys. So there's always something a company produces that can be given to help others.
Right, right. And this is an important part of your company. And for any companies out there, I think one of the things that you can attach to your brand is this giving back. Let people know that you do that.
Mhm.
Um, as you know, I give probably 18 hours a month to free lectures, free presentations, all through all the business charities out there so that I hopefully can make an impact on other businesses thriving, right? 18 hours a month is a lot, but I feel like it's my mission to help businesses succeed. So it's worth it to me. It's part of it. It's what keeps me going. And even my husband said, "Is this really worth it?" I said, "It's worth it in here.
Yes,
It's worth it in here. No, financially, no, it's not, but it's worth it in here."
right. And you know, giving to people, I think, is having been there, giving to people makes a difference. My husband does the cooking, I do all the baking.
Yeah,
And so we're talking about hotel sized pans, which you don't normally have a kitchen large enough to deal with that.
right,
And
right.
so, it's his labor, my labor, and the ingredients. It's an
Yeah.
effort, it's 2 day effort.
So, but there are two of you, and for a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't have the support system that you do, having your spouse help you kind of maneuver some
Yeah,
of
he
this.
does, but he doesn't do any dishes. So anybody thinking about
And
anything
you
food and cook now, he doesn't do dishes.
and you use a lot of dishes.
Well, you can only have so many duplicates of pans,
Right, right.
and mixing
So,
bowls, and I have a few.
so Judy, what words of wisdom would you give to an entrepreneur who is maybe very new to this whole process?
I think you need to know what you're doing, to actually sit down and say, this is what I'm going to produce, this is what I'm going to sell, to know your product, and for manufacturing to be willing to change as your ingredients or parts or whatever change. The same thing in a service. The program that you use to do the taxes change.
Right.
So you have to be willing to change as hard as it is. And you can go scream at the wall if you want to, but also you have to think about what you want to do. You have to be wholeheartedly involved. And I think
Mm,
that's where most of my life in the computer industry, I wanted to do something else. So it was like I was 50% there and 50% someplace else.
right.
And you can't do that if you're running your own company.
You're 1,000% in.
You're 1,000% in is right.
And it's like you're juggling all these balls and you're so afraid that one ball will drop, and it's the But what do you, I mean, when we think about it, would you like to be doing anything else? Where would you be spending your time right now if you weren't doing this?
Most likely volunteering somewhere.
Mhm.
Uh,
Okay.
I have some crafts I'd like to do, and get
Okay.
things in order, which things are usually all over the place.
So where do you see this business in a couple years? A year, 2 years?
I'm hoping that the business is moving into some wholesale so we can offset the individual purchases. And
Right.
for some of the products, like the cheesecakes, if I have enough orders that I can find a co-packer to help produce it.
Right.
So,
So so for any companies out there who are co-packers who
yeah.
want to work with Judy, please reach out to her. And so that's what I was going to ask next is how can people reach out and purchase these amazing products that taste so good and yet are a healthier option. They really are. I mean, that's what it comes down to for those with health conditions or those who want a no sugar and gluten-free type of lifestyle. So how do they find it?
Well, we do have a website under the unsweetenedtooth.com.
Mhm.
And if you have any questions or you're concerned about anything, you can always send an email or call.
Okay, and all that contact information is on your website.
Website.
And I do know that you are across the social media platforms of Facebook and Instagram. And I know a lot of people do reach out through there too. So I have to ask you one more question.
Mhm.
What is your absolute favorite product that you make?
I think the blackberry curd and the cheese.
I
I always, I was telling somebody, I had a customer come today to pick up some cakes. And we were talking about the curds. And I said, yes, my husband and I have a running joke. I'm the blackberry, which is sweet, and he's the lemon, which is tart. And who wins at the sales at the shows, gets a what is it, a brownie point for the week.
and I am like in Duncan's court. I'm pro lemon. You
Yes.
know, I am. It's just absolutely delicious. But I love lemon cakes. I love, lemon
Right.
cookies. So I think you have to be like a fan of lemon anyway
Mm-hmm.
to love it. So if you want to reach out to Judy, she has a whole line of unbelievable fruit curds that are also keto friendly, no sugar added, gluten free, lots of different flavors. And I did hear that you have a special that if you buy anything over $55, you actually will get a 4-ounce jar of sour cherry curd for free. And we love free. So it'll give you an opportunity to try both. And for those of you who want to go to the website, the unsweetentooth.com, go ahead and take a look at all of the delectable treats she has. And I know Father's Day is coming up, so make sure you place your orders by the 12th of June to make sure Dad gets his amazing gift. So, Judy, you are definitely coming back. I know you were like, oh, I've never done this before. Was this easy or
No,
what?
no,
Come on.
I stay away from cameras.
But this was easy, right? This was not hard. No.
Yeah,
All right,
that's so
jury's still out.
true.
I won't go any further. So, for everybody tonight, thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you watching the replay, I hope you have enjoyed this interview. There are plenty more that you can go ahead and peruse on our YouTube channel, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Certainly send me a note. Let me know what you're thinking. And if you need help converting customers because your sales have been kind of lackluster or non existent, so please just reach out to me. Let's have a conversation so we can talk about how we can move forward with it. So I will see everybody next week with another rock star who will be coming your way. And Judy, thank you so much for being here. And I wish you the best.
And one other thing, if they need any help, please have them get hold of me if they have any questions on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know you're really great at, walking people through it and advising them on what they should do. So thank you so much. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.